and then turn red. Oh, this is such a perfect test. Stopping for traffic control in 0 meters, and you see the line on the road, and it's pulled up and it's just stopped. That is so awesome. Now that would have allowed me to go through, and I have to accelerate to get away. Hey, Jason from TechAU in the Model 3 today, because we just got the 2020.20.13 update overnight, and that includes a new feature of autopilot if you have FSD. So it's called traffic light and stop sign control, currently in beta. The reason it's in beta is that the system is really still learning. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to approach a traffic light, stop light, a stop sign even, and the system will recognize that, identify it, and slow us to stop. So generally if you're in a car and you're the first in the queue, it would let you blast through if you're on cruise control. But this is the first car that really has the opportunity to do a safer behavior, which is actually slow you to a stop. And then right now you have to accelerate away from the line. In the future you can see the car would accelerate by itself once the intersection is clear. So let's go and try it out and see what we can capture, and give you a demo of how this thing works. Something I'll explain right off the bat is that since using it this morning, I already noticed that on roundabouts and T intersections, we are definitely experiencing the car responding to those elements as well. So slowing ahead of a roundabout, still not yet able to proceed through the roundabout, but it is getting better. We're getting almost halfway through the roundabout before autopilot asks you to take over. So again, technically in beta, not officially supported on city streets, but you can see the runway that's happening here and where Tesla are heading with this feature, which really gives me confidence that this really is going to be the first car that can drive itself. Just a matter of training that AI to interpret the environment around them, remembering that this isn't localized maps where it knows the intersections that are coming up and can pre-prepare for it. Instead, it's really seeing these things for the first time. So I'm traveling behind this car at the moment. We're heading to this intersection of traffic lights. I'll just indicate to the left. Again, the car's going to do the lane change for me. It checks the surrounding lane and vehicles around me, ensures there's no, nobody in the way, and does the move. But what happened there as we proceeded through that intersection is the vehicle started to slow with cars behind me. They obviously would get annoyed if I let that slow right down. So I needed to confirm on the stalk or accelerate. I chose the stalk, that seems to be easier for me, and just proceeded through as normal. So Tesla are going to take that action and understand that that was a driver determining that that was a safe environment to proceed through. So while I can see on the display it understands that traffic light was green, it still needs us to confirm and absolutely, really make sure that it's a correct intersection for them to let the car drive through. Now approaching this roundabout, we're seeing stopping for traffic in 200, 100, 75. It counts down, we're still on autopilot. I can see that it has the red line on the road, and because I didn't confirm, it thought I just drove through an intersection it should have stopped at, so that's why it yelled at me. Putting autopilot back on, accelerates back up to the cruise, the speed zone at the moment. And nearly got hit by a bird. And another roundabout coming up and a motorbike behind us. So stopping for traffic in 200, 100, 75, 50, and then I confirm and it lets me go through, and it's doing it. Oh, and that's what I meant. It gets about halfway through and then it like bails on the second part of the roundabout, but that's getting better. With every software release, it's getting better and better. We can definitely see we're not too far away from it actually dealing with roundabouts, which is probably one of the most complicated, parts of driving really, is especially these dual lane roundabouts. And it happens on my commute. You've already seen me go through a few. I've got quite a few roundabouts on my commute, another one here. And I'm just going to zoom through this because of the motorbike behind me. There's another set of traffic lights up here. It allows me to test again. Now this is one aspect of autopilot that really still needs to be improved, is the gutter detection. Basically, where the lane lines aren't present, it's going to need to use those gutters. Now, I know on this road there's a portion of it at the start there, very early. If you can enable it, it stays, and it can actually navigate using those gutters as basically an indication of where the lane is. But if you don't, and if I was to disable it now and try and put it back on, I know that from previous experience, this section of road it's not great at, and it can't do that. So it's a pretty big contrast between the road surface being black and the gutters being lighter. It's not always a true representation of where the line is, or where the line really should be. But it is worth noting that that's something Tesla could leverage to determine it. So again, I didn't confirm, so that's why I got angry. And this is really going to be my experience, because I am really determined to leave this on and to help feed that data back into Tesla's learning, so they can make the car better and ultimately achieve where they're going with this, which will benefit all the drivers who own Teslas ultimately. So it's, for me, you're talking about 4, 5, 6 roundabouts on my sort of daily commute. If I head into town, a few more, and a couple of traffic lights along the way. So I would say it's understandable that people will get annoyed and frustrated and turn this feature off while it's learning. And this says stopping for traffic control in 100 meters, and I don't even have autopilot on. So it's said to use the gear stalk. Now that was yellow light, so flashing yellows, it's identifying that. And then it's even giving us this roundabout indicator on the icon on the screen here. So while it can't navigate a roundabout, it can obviously understand that this is where we're at. And I'm not exactly sure how it's doing that. It's certainly not reading the roundabout signs yet. Let's just go back out this route and see what we get. So cruise is on, and this is what I'm talking about. For most part, you can't enable autopilot. You can see it's trying, it's really trying to grab those lanes. And if you can pick the spot, it will allow you to enable autopilot, and then you're pretty much right for this, because it's really just a straight road. We've got a car ahead to follow. It should be one of the easier things for autopilot to deal with. But yeah, needs to work on the gutter support. Stopping, and then it actually doesn't let me proceed. I can't notify it that I want to just proceed through the roundabout. I basically just have to take over, which is an interesting thing. I thought it allowed you to trigger like it does at a traffic light or a stop sign. Now, give way signs is also another aspect that is not yet being accommodated for in the solution. That's clearly further down the to-do list. But give way signs are an interesting aspect of driving. Obviously, most of the time where you're giving way or yielding to somebody else, you're either doing a lane merge or you're turning a corner. So until the car can turn corners on its own at slow speed, that city street driving, I think we won't see give way sign support for a while. So there we go. So traffic lights across from the fire station. You can see they're all green. It knows that, but still just needs me to confirm to feed that data in. And this will be really interesting to watch too, as to how rapidly Tesla can use this data, and now from today's update, Australian data, to remove this requirement to confirm through green. So I think it's only a matter of weeks. I don't think we're talking about 6 months. I think the full features of full self-driving were meant to be shipped by the end of last year. That clearly didn't happen. We're still in development, and the new target is the end of this year. So hopefully, with things like this feature update, adding a big piece of the functionality of being able to recognize traffic lights and stop signs, I think we're getting close. And the way I feel like this is working is that Tesla will focus on a feature and they hammer away at the feature. So they'll have basically the way it works is the AI has an inference, an understanding or an estimation or a confidence level in what it's seeing in the world around it, and it will say, start at 30-40%, and then as it feeds more data into the system, it can grow that confidence level up to 90, 95, 90+%. So the question we don't know the answer to is what is the benchmark for Tesla to call a feature basically good enough? It's never going to be 100%. So it's it could be 99% before they then take that computer processing power, massive infrastructure that they need to power all this, and to have those AI elements learn from all the data that's coming in, the millions of kilometers now every month. What is that number? So if it's 99%, then obviously it takes longer than if you just gave up it or said it's okay after 95%. So that's really my question is it seems like what they're doing is they're trying to get a feature as close to perfect before moving on to the next thing. I'm sure it's not an absolute zero, like they don't completely leave the learning for a feature, but my guess is they get it pretty close before they move on to the next thing, and then they can target all of their resources into the next feature and the learning for that. So what I might do is, because we haven't hit this intersection at reds, I might do a couple of laps of this traffic light intersection and see if I can't luck out and find somebody turning out of the army. We've got army bases on either side of us here, so they often turn out of that intersection and then they cause us the traffic light. I hit it perfectly this morning, but had a camera thing that screwed up, so didn't get to. And this also tells me, it gives me more training to just remember to flash through green. It does alert you, but I think that alert could be a little bit earlier. It seems you've already started slowing down before it really alerts you and reminds you you've got to confirm. I'm just looking in the rear vision mirror to see if I can spot anybody coming out if those lights are about to turn red, but it doesn't look like it. So I'll just do another lap down at the roundabout, back up, and see if we can find it. Or alternatively, there's another route where out onto the freeway I might try as well. Actually, why don't we do that? Then we can have a look at Navigate on autopilot. I haven't tested it today to see if it's got any better with this latest update. So I'll just do what I normally did, which is brake ahead of a roundabout, proceed through the roundabout, and then kick on autopilot. That's the real big win with full self-driving, is you used to have to do that for every overtake, but now you get to leave it on and just indicate. So when you can do that with roundabouts and just proceed through, that'll be amazing. Navigate to Albury. Navigate to McDonald's Albury. Come on, go. Actually, that was pretty good. Normally I've found that when you get close to a car like that, when you're accelerating out of a roundabout and that person in front's going really slow, that it gives you the alert that you're about to hit them when clearly you aren't. You can see visually there's enough distance, and sort of when you can accelerate, and you're not going to get near them. So I was really impressed that let me get that close without A, alerting me, and B, cutting the power, which is also something the car does from time to time if it's trying to avoid an accident. Auto steer restricted to 80, that's fine. Let's navigate to Albury. Just so it's got an address in, and navigate on autopilot would work. You see it's on there. I personally, I don't mind the aggressive lane changes, so I've got mine on Mad Max. So customized navigate, so mine's on Mad Max. Require lane change confirmation, no. I just kind of like trying to live in the future, so where it is just going to do it itself. So rather than me having to stalk confirm for every lane change. It's not perfect by any means. It's definitely changed lanes previously. This is before this update. It's changed lanes when it really didn't need to. And it looks like I'm going to have to just drive through the roundabout. Yeah, brake again. cancel out and re-engage after the roundabout. It's like pretty good, but I can see a day where those roundabouts are supported, and that's just going to be, just because of it's going to be so awesome because how many are around Albury-Wodonga. It's in my little area there is quite a few. It seems like we're a bit in love with roundabouts, to be honest. And there's a certain like beauty to roundabouts and the way traffic flows through that you can get so many vehicles through an intersection so rapidly, whereas the disconnect of like a stop-start of a traffic light is just not as smooth, you know. The downside of a roundabout obviously is that people aren't always great at judging, you know, distances and accelerating away from the line. So you have a high risk potential for accidents at roundabouts. The dual lane ones, obviously you have people cutting lanes, and so there's a risk element there too that Tesla need to accommodate for when when the computer is driving instead of humans. This is an interesting intersect that happens a fair bit. So you got a lane split from 1 to 2 lanes. Now we're going right up here, so I'm hoping that it chose the right lane, not because it was the first one that's seen, but because it sort of understood that that's the direction we're heading. So right lane made sense and is what a human would do. So it's going to do close. Oh, we're getting the way through. Oh, I nearly did it. And then just jammed on the brakes for no reason. I'm going to take over this guy because oh no, he's going to cut me off. That was amazing. So guy in front's cutting into my lane. Autopilot accommodates for it. And here's the weird thing, like why is it indicating left? Obviously we're going right. So this to me really feels like a hangover from America, where obviously they're doing the opposite, and now it's indicating correctly to merge into that lane. And you see the lane change just happened, and now it's merging me out, probably because this guy ahead's only doing 90 something in 110 zone. So, and I'm just going to cancel that lane change because I want to go around him. So once we get up here, it should see the clear lane and then navigate me back. There we go. So it's navigating me back into the left lane. There we go. Perfect. And guy in the Jeep wants to speed past me on the right. So this is where like cruise control really, or navigate on autopilot really shows its strength, and autopilot really just allows the car to do everything for you, and you can just sort of kick back. And yes, you've still got to pay attention. There is that element while it's still learning, but pretty much it's like you're watching a movie happen in front of you rather than you actually have to spend the mental energy to control the vehicle. We just took our off ramp and it says navigate on autopilot ending, so it goes back to regular autopilot. And then we've got a left turn at the lights coming up. So lights turning red, stopping for traffic control in 100 meters. This is great. 75, 25, and we just stopped at a red light. Now I would have pulled up and angled the car to the left because we're taking a left turn, but you can see it stopped at the white light, which is cool. So I'm going to, why don't we cancel that and say let's go home instead. But that's cool. Like no other car on sale today can do what this car just did then, and that's awesome. Like that's Tesla really showing off where the car and where the technology is going. You can see it's picked up the stop sign on the pole over to the side. You can't quite see this traffic light at the front, so it knows it's there, but it can't see the color, and then it sees the green, and I had to navigate away. So in the future, it's obviously gonna take off from the line. That's fine. Now I didn't have autopilot or anything engaged then, and again it brings me to a stop. So I really think that there's like this new level of safety that's happening right here that isn't really reflected by the 5-star rating of traditional vehicles, right? They're all to do with like crash rating and that sort of stuff, and there's a component of it, that is around safety, and vehicle occupant safety. But what happens if a vehicle gets upgraded after the sale of the vehicle? That's not something that, ANCAP or anything like that have really accommodated for in their score. You'd have to do another evaluation of the vehicle after sale once these features come out. And then it's changing like every couple of days, or every week at least. I've sort of found there's usually an update. So it's an ever-changing beast, and the reality is they're not going to get every vehicle back every week and retest. So now this is an interesting challenge. Car beside me in our lane didn't merge and didn't move to the other lane and let me in. So the Tesla just let it do its thing. The lane I was in was ending. It braked, slowed down, let the car pass, and then merged me in. That was so perfect. That's exactly what I would have done as a human driver. And now we're cruising along, and it knows there's 1.6 kilometers till the next turn left, so it's probably unlikely to take me over, even though we're doing 105 instead of 110. And of course, I'm holding the wheel, but to be honest, I'm only doing that so it stops nagging. I know that when it's on Navigator and Autopilot, when it's locked on the blue lines on the lane markers, I know the car knows what it's doing. I know it can detect the environment around it, and the reason I have confidence in that is really this map. I can see the things that the system is seeing, so I know when it's confident, when it's not, and certainly after you've used the system for a while, you do gain that confidence in it, and I just wish that they would enable sort of driver tracking through the camera in the car and use that system rather than having to require force into the wheel. That seems silly, because I've got sort of a pressure down on the right here. So pressure down on the right is sort of it's comfortable for me. But when then the car wants to migrate left, that means it's torquing in the opposite direction. So it's a little strange, I would have to say. And so now we're going to take our exit, Navigator on Autopilot's ending, and it just jumps back to normal autopilot. So that was on ramp, off ramp. It's just these little pieces in between now. Now, Smart Summon obviously has a way to go, I'll give them that. But it's not detecting the parking bays, the white parking bays on the ground, and it's happily driving over those, where a human would never do that. So I think there's definitely some ways to go in Smart Summon. They need to focus that AI learning on that area. It's really going to be a combination of these three aspects. So the slow speed stuff with Smart Summon, the medium speed stuff like the city streets that it's learning now, and it's basically, or let's say it's already got Navigator on Autopilot is freeway high speed driving nailed. So we're getting close. It's got the elements there, the recipe's right. We just got to keep baking the cake and letting the system learn. Because really what they're trying to do is they're trying to teach the car to be a human. Use the computer inside the car to be the brain, and the radar, the sensors, and the cameras, of course, to be the eyes. And it's just a matter of data now. It's just a matter of time and training. And there's a lot of weird, wacky things in the world that a lot of them are Australian specific. So it is, as much as the global Tesla fleet of more than 1 million cars is learning, we have to do the training here in Australia as well to accommodate our bizarre situations. So we didn't come to a full stop there, and we're following the car ahead, so that's why it took off automatically. But I'm going to go and proceed to take over and zoom down here. I just love that. So two things happened there. So I switched lanes. Obviously, all I had to do was indicate to tell the car I wanted to switch lanes. It took care of the change and then turned the blinker off, which is really awesome. It sounds like a dumb, small thing, but it's really awesome. And then I came to a stop. Again, that's something that only this car can do. That's very, very cool. And I'm just so pleased that I own one. This roundabout stuff has got me surprised. I was not expecting it to be really identifying roundabouts. I mean, there is obviously a roundabout sign at each one of these, but I'm just interested as to how it's detecting what is a roundabout. Alright, so I'm just cruising past. This is in Wodonga, where the Tesla Superchargers are, and there's a Model S and a Model X. Yeah, cool. Oh, I forgot to proceed. And that ends up actually pretty aggressive on the brakes if you don't, to pull you up in time. So certainly a lot of learning and remembering. I will say there's like two modes of driving with the Model 3. It's you tend to be like I am now, like relaxed, and sort of the car has control and you can just chill out. And then the other mode is obviously this car is amazing at performance. So the other mode is like hold on for dear life and just like hook into turns, accelerate out, smash that pedal. It's so unbelievable to have those two options in a single car. They're the kind of vast separate experiences you usually have to have two different cars to achieve. So to have them packaged in a single vehicle is very cool. You sit back, laid, cruisy highway stuff, and eventually city street stuff, or just the absolute, track level kind of crazy stupid performance. So I just enjoy the hell out of this thing. It's easily the best piece of technology I've ever bought, and can't get enough of it. I've driven nearly 13,500 Ks in it now. There's just nothing like it. It's so good. I remember the first time that I drove a Model S, had it for review and drove that, and it kind of broke me at that point. Like there's nothing else I'd been in that was even close to that level of performance. Like there's some really quick cars in the world, but that thing was mental, and just the thing that blew me away was just how easy it was to drive. It's just go, stop, and that is the traction control. That's just really means that a car with that level of performance doesn't get out of control on you. Usually people go and buy fast cars and they end up binning them because they can't handle the power. Whereas it's almost idiot proof. It's basically, unless you're doing something really, really crazy, you can hook into corners at like 60, 70, and it's traction for days. It's good. And this is just with the stock set of wheels. You can obviously upgrade your tyres and maybe improve that. Take it to the track if you like, and I hope to do that one day. Because it has all these crazy features that you're not going to touch in your daily life, perhaps like track mode version 2, but it's just such an all-rounder that just accommodates everything. Like somebody was talking to me the other day about how does it go as a family car? Can you strap the kids in and that? And of course it's got a couple of ISOFIX mounts in the back, and people have even crammed 3 car seats in the thing, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's a great road tripping car, because you don't have to think, you just drive, and autopilot drives most of the way. Yeah, this roundabout thing. We have so many in Wodonga. It's like it is honestly ridiculous how many we have. So got one this way and then one this way, and they're fun. I like driving around them. But there's just a lot of them. So in this supermarket car park, what I've been doing, I've been going in and shopping. I'll park over on the right because obviously I want to park away from people and avoid door dents and that sort of stuff. But this little section over here is a great test bed for Smart Summon. lets me call up the car and collect it, or come and collect me after I've got some groceries. So I might give you guys a look at that. Usually park over here and then sort of go and pick it up from over there. So it has to back out, turn around, come and get me. Yeah, we'll give that a try. So here we are, car's over there. Imagine I've just come out from the supermarket over there. I'm going to hit summon, connects to the vehicle, and then I'm going to try smart summon. So you can see it wants to route to wherever the target is, and I can change that location, or I can just say, come to me. So in the app, you can see which gear it is, how fast it's going in the bottom right hand corner. We're doing 3, gets up to about 9 or 10 kilometers an hour. Not too fast, but I've used this a fair bit. I'm pretty confident with it, doing okay now. It does some weird things, like it's like somebody learning to drive basically. But the fact that that car is moving without anybody inside it, that's just friggin' wild and bloody cool. And I go up and get in.